Leviathan. Hebrew Leviathan, the Leviathan. Last seen 1600s Mediterranean Sea. Noted features: shifting biology, adaptive defense, immortality. Leviathan is a creature with the form of a sea serpent from Jewish belief, referenced in the Hebrew Bible in the Book of Job, Psalms, the Book of Isaiah, and the Book of Amos. The Leviathan, or sea goddess of the Book of Job, is a reflection of the older Canaanite Lotan, a primeval monster defeated by the god Baal-Hadad. Parallels to the role of Mesopotamian Tiamat, defeated by Marduk, have long been drawn in comparative mythology, as have been the wider comparisons to dragon and world serpent narratives such as Indra slaying Vitra or Thor slaying Jormungandr. But the Leviathan already figures in the Hebrew Bible as a metaphor for a powerful enemy, notably Babylon, Isaiah chapter 27 verse 1, and some 19th century scholars have pragmatically interpreted it as referring to large aquatic creatures, such as the crocodile. The word later came to be used as a term for great whale, as well as for sea monsters in general. The reason there are so many different descriptions for the creature is because it can shift its body around like an artist molds clay. Similar to the metamorphosis that butterflies and moths go through, the Leviathan can encase itself in a cocoon and shift its form into something new. As a massive crocodile, it can explore land, as a sea serpent for deep-sea diving, even as a giant whale so it can capsize ships. There are even fables of it being able to change into a dragon to wreak havoc from the skies. There is no rhyme or reason to why it changes its form and what change it is going to do next. But what is commonly used from what has been witnessed is that of a massive multi-headed serpent. The Hebrew name is a derivation from the root meaning to twine or to join, with an adjectival suffix with a literal meaning of wreathed, twisted in folds. Both the name and the mythological figure are a direct continuation of the Ugaritic sea monster Lotan, one of the servants of the sea god Yamu, defeated by Hadad in the Baal cycle. The Ugaritic account has gaps, making it unclear whether some phrases describe him or other monsters at Yamu's disposal, such as Tunanu, the biblical Tannin. Most scholars agree on describing Lotan as the fugitive serpent, but he may or may not be the wriggling serpent or the mighty one with 7 heads. His role seems to have been prefigured by the earlier serpent Temtum, whose death at the hands of Hadad is depicted in the Syrian seals of the 18th to 16th century BC. The Leviathan is mentioned 5 times in the Tanakh, in Job chapter 3 verse 8, Job chapter 40 verse 15 to chapter 41 verse 26, Psalms chapter 74 verses 13 to 23, Psalms chapter 104 verse 26, and Isaiah chapter 27 verse 1. Job chapter 41 verses 1 to 34 is dedicated to describing him in detail. Behold, the hope of him is in vain. Shall not one be cast down even at the sight of him? In Psalm 74, God is said to break the heads of Leviathan in pieces before giving his flesh to the people of the wilderness. In Psalm 104, God is praised for having made all things, including Leviathan, and in Isaiah chapter 27 verse 1, he is called the tortuous serpent who will be killed at the end of time. It highlights the true terror of Leviathan. Every wound it receives heals unusually fast. It has been stabbed, shot, burned, exploded, and even ripped to pieces, yet it will always heal and always come back together again. The only thing of note is that larger injuries will force it into a cocoon, where it'll emerge in a shape that has particular resistance to what injured it in the first place. Later Jewish sources describe Leviathan as a dragon who lives over the sources of the deep and who, along with the male land monster Behemoth, will be served up to the righteous at the end of time. The Book of Enoch, chapter 60 verses 7 to 9, describes Leviathan as a female monster dwelling in the watery abyss as Tiamat, while Behemoth is a male monster living in the desert of Dunedin, east of Eden. When the Jewish Midrash, explanations of the Tanakh, were being composed, it was held that God originally produced a male and a female Leviathan, but lest in multiplying the species should destroy the world, he slew the female, reserving her flesh for the banquet that will be given to the righteous on the advent of the Messiah. Another feature to note is that Leviathan's torn flesh, if consumed, can rapidly heal the wounds of others. A cubic inch of flesh was able to fully heal an agent who had lost limbs on a prior assignment. They were brought to what is considered peak health for a human being with no signs of degeneration besides that of aging. In the Talmud, Baba Batra 75a, it is told that the Leviathan will be slain and its flesh served as a feast to the righteous in the time to come, and its skin used to cover the tent where the banquet will take place. The festival of Sukkot, Festival of Booths, therefore concludes with a prayer recited upon leaving the Sukkot, or booth. May it be your will, Lord our God and God of our forefathers, that just as I have fulfilled and dwelt in this sukkah, so may I merit in the coming year to dwell in the sukkah of the skin of Leviathan, next year in Jerusalem. When the Leviathan is hungry, reports Rabbi Dibby in the name of Rabbi Johanan, he sends forth from his mouth a heat so great as to make all the waters of the deep boil, and if he would put his head into paradise, no living creature could endure the odor of him. His abode is the Mediterranean Sea, and the waters of the Jordan fall into his mouth. In a legend recorded in the Midrash called Perk de Rabbi Eliezer, it is stated that the fish which swallowed Jonah narrowly avoided being eaten by the Leviathan, which eats one whale each day. The body of the Leviathan, especially his eyes, possesses great illuminating power. This was the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer, who, in the course of a journey in company with Rabbi Joshua, explained to the latter, when frightened by the sudden appearance of a brilliant light, that it probably proceeded from the eyes of the Leviathan. He referred his companion to the words of Job chapter 41, verse 18. By his neesings a light doth shine, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. However, in spite of his supernatural strength, the Leviathan is afraid of a small worm called kilbit, which clings to the gills of large fish and kills them, per Shabbat 77b. It is thought that these parasitic fish are able to latch onto the Leviathan, forcing it to go through a great many shifts to keep them from eating it forever, especially as its flesh provides great restorative effect to anything that eats it. Leviathan can also be used as an image of Satan, endangering both God's creatures by attempting to eat them, and God's creation by threatening it with upheaval in the waters of chaos. St. Thomas Aquinas described Leviathan as the demon of envy, first in punishing the corresponding sinners, per Secunda Secundae, question 36. Peter Binsfield likewise classified Leviathan as the demon of envy, as one of the 7 princes of hell, corresponding to the 7 deadly sins. Leviathan became associated with, and may originally have been referred to by, the visual motif of the Hellmouth, a monstrous animal into whose mouth the damned disappear at the Last Judgment, found in Anglo-Saxon art from about 800 and later all over Europe. In the Gnostic practice, the Church Father Origen accused a Gnostic sect of venerating the biblical serpent of the Garden of Eden. Therefore, he calls them Ophites, naming them after the serpent they're supposed to worship. In this belief system, the Leviathan appears as an Ouroboros, separating the divine realm from humanity by enveloping or permeating the material world. We do not know whether or not the Ophites actually identified the serpent of the Garden of Eden with Leviathan. However, since the Leviathan is basically connoted negatively in this Gnostic cosmology, if they identified him with the serpent of the book of Genesis, he was probably indeed considered evil, and thus its advice was good. Further, according to this Gnostic sect, after death, a soul must pass through the 7 spheres of the archons. If the soul does not succeed, it will be swallowed by a dragon-shaped archon, who holds the world captive and returns the soul into an animal body, a depiction resembling the Leviathan mentioned before. With the knowledge that the flesh of the Leviathan grants great vitality, it's assumed that this group may have discovered that and are not sharing the secret outside of their inner circle and have made a group to keep tabs on the creature. It is still active to this day, and it is thanks to their order that Leviathan's location can be rapidly discovered.